to Tabletop Tactics and yet another Grotmas Advent video. Red Gobbo be praised, because today he has granted us the gift of a whole brand new Leagues of Votann detachment. Yes, the Hearth band, you're gonna argue about it in the comments anyway, so tell me which is the correct way to pronounce it, is here, and they want to get up close and personal with the enemy with their methodical annihilation detachment rule. I personally think this is quite cool. What it does is every time a Leagues of Votann unit makes a ranged attack, excluding with blast weapons, if they are targeting the closest eligible unit or a unit they are within engagement range with, they can reroll a hit roll of 1, and if the unit is a Karl, Einhir Hearthguard, or is Uthar the Destined, they can improve the armor penetration of that attack by 1. Now, stacking this up with the Eye of the Ancestors army rule is quite cool, because if you are very clever about where you're placing your judgment tokens and your positioning on the battlefield, you can get +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and re-rolling ones to hit and extra AP. So you're really making sure that those punches are hitting through the armor of your opponent. So this could be quite a heavy hitting detachment, I think. But before we make up our minds, let's take a deeper dive into the detachment, as those dwarves dug too deeply and too greedily indeed into the mines. We are going to start with the enhancements, and the first is Bastion Shield. This can go on any of your Leagues of Votann characters. What it does is every time a ranged attack target the bearer's unit, if they are within 12 inches, you worsen the AP of that attack by 1, which is quite good because this detachment is encouraging you to get up very close, so it just grants you a way to protect your units when you are in that position. Quite cool. We then have the Quake multi-generator, which just sounds very cool. This is for a Karl only. So in your shooting phase, after you have shot, you pick one unit that was hit by one of your attacks, excluding Titanics, which is fine. That unit then becomes suppressed. Now, we've seen this before in other factions, and what this does is it gives that unit -1 to their hit rolls until the start of your next turn. So that is ranged attacks and melee attacks. Again, this detachment is wanting you to get up close to the enemy, and these enhancements are granting you a way to protect your units when you're already there. So it seems to be synergizing quite nicely with how the Votann work. Iron Skeen is the next enhancement, and it is another one to buff your units. It can go on any of your Leagues of Votann characters, and it just adds 2 to their wounds characteristic, making them a little bit tougher. Finally, we have High Karl. Yes, the High Karl is back. Obviously, this can only go on a Karl model, and it gives the bearer's unit fighting on death on a 4+, which is very, very nice to put into a unit that is very combat based. I'm thinking the Einhir Hearthguard could be quite good for this, because they do have a good punch in combat. So it's quite a cool way to round out the stratagems, which are mostly defensive, and this is still defensive in a way. It's very reactive, but it gives you the chance to punch back a little harder when you do die. We then move on to the stratagems, and we're going to kick it off with another defensive buff for the Leagues of Votann. So this can be done in your opponent's shooting phase or in the fight phase, and it can only be put on one Karl, Uthar the Destined, or Einhir Hearthguard unit. Until the end of the phase, that unit gains a 4+ invulnerable save. So this does go quite nicely with some of those enhancements, just to keep things alive a little bit longer, so they can stick around in combat and stay close to your enemy units to get advantage for that detachment rule, being able to shoot and be nice and close. Sure of Purpose is the next stratagem, and this can be put on any of your Leagues of Votann units. In the fight phase, select that unit, and when they make a pile-in or consolidation move, they can move 6 inches instead of 3. Now, this is quite helpful not only for being able to get more units into range for combat, so you get more hits, but also just allows you more movements, so you can plan your positioning better for the detachment rule. So it works together quite nicely, but you do have to think about what you're doing. We then have a Superior Craftsmanship, and this is 2 command points, but I think I understand why. This is done in the fight phase, and it can be done on any of your Leagues of Votann units. When you are targeting a vehicle or a monster with a melee attack, you add 1 to the damage characteristic. I can already think of some units this would be nice on, the Einhir Hearthguard and the Chthonian Berserks specifically. So you can really work on taking down those bigger units, and your combat units can just keep barreling through, which is quite cool. Unyielding aggression is for your movement phase, and it can be done on one of your infantry units that has just been selected to fall back. That unit is still eligible to shoot and charge that turn despite having fallen back. So it's quite useful for being able to get into position or allowing a unit to shoot that otherwise wouldn't be able to. Another movement phase stratagem is materialization matrices. This is done in the reinforcement step of your movement phase. You pick one unit that is in strategic reserves with the deep strike keyword. They can deep strike 6 inches away from an enemy unit instead of 9. You aren't eligible to charge, but we see this across the board. I'm imagining this will be quite nice on some Ironhear Hearthguard with the teleport crest. They can't charge, but you've got some ways to keep them beefy, to keep them around if they are close. And what this allows you to do is to just pick which unit you want to be closest to get the buff from the detachment ability. Especially if it's something with a grudge token on it, being able to hit on 2s with your weapons and reroll the 1s makes them really consistent. Finally, we have Fury of the Hearth. Now this one is specifically for your Ironhear Hearthguard, which kind of makes sense because I feel like a lot of these stratagems and a lot of the enhancements and the army will work very well for the Hearthguard. But what this gives them is rapid fire 1 on their ranged weapons. Doesn't include the blast weapons, so you don't get it on your grenade launchers, but it is nice on either the plasma guns and the disintegrators, because again, if you are shooting at something with a grudge token on, and they're the closest, you are hitting on 2s, you are re-rolling 1s, you then get the rapid fire for even more shots, so even more hits, especially if you're using the Vulcanite Disintegrator, gives you more chances for devastating wounds, which your opponent can't really do anything about. Makes it a very, very useful unit, especially if you've deep struck them 6 inches away with the previous stratagem, so you're definitely getting the rapid fire off. It's quite a cool little combo. So there we have it, that is the brand new Hearth Band detachment for the Leagues of Votann. Now what I am envisioning for this is very much, they want you to lean into the Ironhear Hearthguard, they want you to lean into having characters with all of those, and I also think Chthonian Berserks would be very good for this because they are fast and wanting to be closer. Not so much for the range, but for things like using superior craftsmanship for the +1 damage does buff them up a lot more. So there's a lot of things you could do with this, and I think you could end up with a much faster and much punchier Leagues of Votann list than what you've got at the moment with the current index. But I'm very excited to see how this one plays out. And if you are excited, let me know in the comments. And while you are there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to see more of these Grotmas videos, we are doing them every day. As they come out, we are doing our best for you. We're going to be back here tomorrow with another one. So we will see you very shortly. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!
Enjoying today's video? Here's a quick look at what we've released this week for our on-demand members. These videos join a huge library of exclusive content that grows every week for our on-demand community. If you want instant access to all of these videos and more, head over to table.tactics.tv or download our app and sign up today. And currently, we have an introductory offer for new customers, so there's never been a better time to join on demand.